radio is broadcast on LSL Podcast Channel. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the channel.
I know some of you guys might hear my voice, and it might sound like I'm calling on a cell phone, which, by the way, is against the rules of the show. I am clearly violating show rules by calling into the show on a cell phone. Drew, don't we demand landlines? Or
aren't you hands-free?
Don't we have landlines?
We do demand landlines, but I guess, since you do own the show and you're the host of the show, we can make the exception for you, Laura, this one time.
Let me just say,
You sound good, though. You sound good. We have Pete in studio as well, so we got a 3-team
I'm just
here.
curious, are you hands-free with that, or are you going to get pulled over?
No.
Bluetooth.
No, Raymond's driving.
Oh, good.
Raymond's driving. I'm in the passenger seat.
Personal driver.
So this is
I think
what
that's scarier than if you were texting.
It is scarier with Raymond driving than texting, for sure. But let me just say this. Washington, D.C. traffic I think it's worse than L.A. Everyone says L.A. traffic or New York traffic is the worst. I want to redo the survey about traffic, okay? Because when school is back in session, I literally have to leave an hour earlier.
Well, Laura, Congress is actually back to work too, so they're actually back in back in the town and stuff. So you're used to August where it's been dead. So difference in daylight and dark.
Yeah. So Congress is back. You know what I'm looking forward to is the flying cars, because once the flying cars are coming, within the next 5 to 7 years. So there's no problem with a possibility of a near midair collision or anything with flying cars, right? So when the flying cars are in order, I'll be there in time every day. Okay. First of all, number one, I want to apologize to my listeners because it's my fault. Mi falta. It's my fault. Okay. Number two, I want to say for all the people panicking about Donald Trump doing a deal with Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, call in and I'm going to explain to you why you needn't panic. Okay. 855-40-LAURA. 855-40-LAURA. I will explain to you why, in my estimation, and I have no inside information, but I predicted that something like this would happen, that Donald Trump, if he did not get results from the Republicans, and look, he has gotten no results from the Republicans. They've given him nothing except for some VA bill that he could sign, which was a nice bill, but other than that, they didn't do Obamacare. They haven't done tax reform yet. They haven't gotten through, the things that he wanted to do. The infrastructure seems to be stalled. So they haven't been able to deliver. So what does Donald Trump do? He's like, okay, you can't deliver. I'm going to work with people who can deliver, and we're going to at least get 3 months of breathing time. And then by the end of the year, we'll have movement on tax reform, which I think is his main focus. That's what I think is going on. Now, if the Republicans had actually followed the Make America Great agenda and actually put America first instead of screwing up the Obamacare repeal, I think Donald Trump would have, as a conservative populist, he would have said, okay, I can work with these people. But right now, all they do is pout and sniff around and sniping and going to the microphone and complaining about Charlottesville. As far as I can tell, that's what these people have been doing. So we have some sound bites we'll listen to just so people are reset in case you were in a black hole yesterday and missed this. This is Mitch McConnell yesterday.
In the meeting down at the White House, the president agreed with Senator Schumer and Congresswoman Pelosi to do a 3-month CR and a debt ceiling into December. And that's what I will be offering based on the president's decision to the bill. And then we'll try to get 60 votes and move forward.
Yeah, well, in the end, he had to agree to it. I mean, he wasn't happy. But did you like the look on his face, guys? Like the look on old Grandma's face.
Oh, yeah. It was priceless, Laura. I mean, you would have thought he just... we got another one, too.
Yeah,
hold on. For our listeners, let's demonstrate the entire statement here. Here we go.
Yeah.
Are you surprised that the president sided with Democrats and against the longer-term measure that Republicans received?
Look, the president can speak for himself, but his feeling was that we needed to come together to not create a picture of divisiveness at a time of genuine national crisis. And that was the rationale. I'm confident for his decision to agree to what I'm going to be offering.
Okay, you know what I think? Hearing that, it's better to hear it than to see it because I get distracted from that little waddle under his chin. So it's better to hear it because when I hear it, you know what I hear? I hear someone whose attention we've finally gotten.
Exactly,
Finally
Laura.
gotten him to pay attention.
He sounds a little salty
now.
there. It sounds like Rex Tillerson a few weeks back, on that Fox News interview. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like Mitch McConnell finally gets the fact that we have someone in the Oval Office who wants to get things done. They are happy over in the Senate to slow walk nominations, not call people to the carpet for delaying the appointments in key positions, to slow walk this common sense tax reform, Obamacare, skinny, fat Obamacare repeal. They couldn't get any of that done. And so Donald Trump gets all these people in the Oval and says, all right, I'm with the Republicans, but these people are actually going to start working on this stuff. I'm going to work with them. In the end, I think I'll be able to cut a better deal than I'll cut a deal with the GOP establishment. And by the way, if Mitch McConnell still doesn't get that, Donald Trump's going to cut another deal with the Democrats, and that might not be as frankly, basically innocuous as this one. I mean, who believes that they weren't going to raise the debt ceiling? Who believes that? They were, of course, going to raise the debt ceiling. And when do they ever get anything, the Republicans, in some grand bargain to agree to raise the debt ceiling? Have they gotten anything lately? I mean, years ago they got the sequester cuts, which frankly I was in favor of. But even the Republicans wanted to blow those up because it was too mean to the Defense Department. They weren't getting all the money they wanted. But it's not like the Republicans have been such great negotiators on getting some good conservative stuff for raising the debt ceiling limit. They didn't get anything.
Yeah, Laura. So this is what Chuck Schumer says after the meeting. So proving your point right here.
Yeah.
I think he listened to our arguments. We made the point that this was very, very important. So the bottom line is the president listened to the arguments. We think we made a very reasonable and strong argument. And to his credit, he went with the better argument.
Well, I've known Donald Trump for 13 years. And this is what I will say, and I've said this since the beginning of the administration. When they came out and they kind of handled the entire travel ban, travel pause in a ham-fisted way, I said that's going to hurt conservatism. Why? Because if you're going to do something like that, you better button it down. You better message it right. You better have the communication strategy in line. You better have the legal team ready to go. And instead, they screwed it up. Okay? And I was in favor of what they did. And then they didn't have all their ducks in a row on Obamacare repeal. They didn't have the 4 things that Congress had to do. They didn't go across the country and sell it. Now, this is being poorly supported by his staff. They didn't get that done. So Donald Trump sees, frankly, legislative failure after, communications failure, and he sees all these failures. So you're going to be judged by what you do to make his administration more popular. He's a populist. He wants to be popular, there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. There's nothing wrong with that. And remember, my book, Billionaire at the Barricades, The Populist Revolution from Reagan to Trump, explains a lot of this. He's a pragmatist. He wants to do things while he's president that will be popular, that the people want. I mean, we don't elect elected officials to do stuff we don't want them to do. We elect them to do stuff that we do want them to do. It doesn't mean we're going to get everything, but it does mean we have to get something. Otherwise, what's the point of having a president?
Exactly, Laura. I mean, think about it. All summer long, they've been stewing over in gridlock. I mean, they've done nothing, and they're going to sit here and actually blame Donald Trump when Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell have been distancing themselves from him all summer long, will not stick up for him. Paul Ryan, I'll give him credit every now and then. McConnell couldn't have been any more. I mean, why not make a deal with the Democrats? Neither one of them are your friends to begin with.
Yeah, neither of them are your friends, but there's one group that said, okay, we'll do this 3 months. And I imagine what's going to happen as part of this is they're going to get $1.6 billion for the wall as a down payment. My concern is if Nancy Pelosi is the Speaker of the House in 2018, you ain't going to get any more money for that wall. But this is where we'll see just how good of a deal maker Donald Trump is. Look, it didn't work so well working with the Republicans, and now the Republicans know you better bring him a bill he can sign, otherwise he's going to go cut the best deal he can with somebody. And can you really blame him? If it turns out by 2019 that Donald Trump hasn't gotten tax reform done, hasn't gotten an infrastructure done, it's over anyway. It's done. So he has to deal with this stuff. He has to get the real border enforcement in place before any amnesty. He has to get that border enforcement in place. But the Republicans haven't really even moved that forward, as far as I can tell.
Not at all.
So, this is it's not pretty. It's not a pretty deal. But I'm saying it's not a pretty process. But the Republicans, this is my comment, and you can all call in and dispute it if you want or agree. I don't care. This is my conclusion about this. Unless you show Donald Trump results, he will find someone else who will show results. And the Republicans have no one to blame for Donald Trump cutting a deal with the Democrats but themselves. They've spent time trashing this president, both off the record and sometimes subtly on the record, on race, on not understanding the complexity of the legislative process, as Mitch McConnell said a few months ago. They have been subtly, explicitly, off the record, on the record, being less than charitable, to put it kindly, to the president. And that he doesn't take kindly to that. He knows what the Democrats are. Their rank, their identity politics, and he's not identity politics, and he's not going to play that game. But he knows what the Democrats are all about. I think he came in thinking the people he was going to work with were the Republicans. He thought that, but now he sees there is a bipartisan establishment that is fine with gridlock. They're fine with keeping gridlock in place.
And Laura, he has
Donald Trump's like,
you're right, and he has everyone on his toes. Everyone's confused. They don't know what this means. You should have seen the crowd on Morning Joe. I got to play a soundbite here for you because they do not know how to react. They're just like, is he working with Dibs, working with Republicans? They have no idea how to react. So this is Mark Halperin this morning.
NBC shouldn't pay me today because I have no idea what this means and what this is about. It's one of the strangest things I've seen in not just in Donald Trump's time, but for any president.
See, I'm with you.
I agree, Joe, that in the short term, not having a debt ceiling crisis, dealing with the disaster relief, I agree that that's a short-term thing of governing that a lot of people will like. But come December, which is not that far away, if all this deal crowds out any possibility of tax reform, I'm not sure politically or substantively come January the president's going to be in a particularly strong position.
Let me explain it to Mark Halperin, because for all of Mark's credentials, he doesn't seem to see the obvious. Let me tell you what's going on. Do you think Donald Trump has gotten McConnell and Ryan's attention on tax reform now? Do you think that now
Absolutely.
They see, ruh-roh, he's like, you need Astro, the wonder dog on the Jetsons to go, ruh-roh, we've got to work with this president now. Yeah, he's got their attention. Now they know, we better give him something he can sign, because if not, he's going to run an independent play here. He's going to run against both parties in the 2018 election cycle, and the Republicans who actually had supported Trump are going to win big. And the Republicans are on the side of Mitch McConnell and Ryan. They're going to lose. So I think this is, again, we'll see how it plays out, and this could crater. But from what I gather right at this moment, he now has leverage both with the Democrats and the Republicans with this play. That's what I think. Because now what the activists on the left are saying, and go on some of these left-wing blogs, they're really mad at the Democrats for cutting a deal with Trump. So the lefties are all ticked off at the Democrats, and meanwhile the Freedom Caucus is huffing and puffing over there in the House of Representatives, because they're like, but now they, Ryan, you got to do something. Yeah, you got to give him a bill that he can sign, and if you don't give him a bill that he can sign, he's going to find his own way forward. That's what he's done in business. That's what he's done all of his life. He's not a politician. He's not going to play by Mark Halperin's rules or the Queen's rules. He's not going to do that.
But Laura, don't you love that though? NBC shouldn't pay me today because I don't know what this means.
Well, I think that might be something they should think about as a consistent matter.
You're right, exactly.
If you're Mark Halperin, what's the worst thing you can hear? And so Mika says, "I'm with you." Then you know you're in trouble.
We'll take a break. Everyone, tune in for the next segment.
I depend on my car to run errands, to get to work, just like you do. So let me ask you this: if your car broke down today, could you afford the repairs? I don't worry about that anymore because I have extended vehicle service protection from CarShield. Replacing your engine can cost thousands. Even a simple repair to the sensor, not so simple, it can cost over $1,000 as well. CarShield's affordable extended vehicle service protection can save you thousands for a covered repair. And they cover practically everything. You can have your favorite mechanic or dealership Do the work with CarShield, and then you get the mechanic paid directly. You don't have to worry about getting reimbursed. So get covered by CarShield today, and you'll get the VIP treatment from CarShield's administrators, 24/7 roadside assistance, and a rental while yours is in the shop. So call 800-CAR-6100 and mention the code Laura. Or just visit carshield.com and use the code Laura to save 10%. That's carshield.com, code Laura.
A deductible may apply.
If you've listened to my show for any period of time, you know how much I love Food for the Poor. They do what they say. Their financial integrity is unequaled, and I've seen their work personally. I'm so excited to work with them again this year. In Haiti, 1 out of 14 children will never see the age of 5 without our help. Together, we're going to save the lives of 4,200 children. $50 provides food for a year and clean water for life for a suffering child. Call 844-868-4673 or go to lauraingraham.com. That's 844-868-4673 or go to lauraingraham.com.
All right, that's Jim Vandehei, who is one of the founders of a website called Axios on Morning Joe. As you can tell, I'm on the phone because I'm stuck on a bridge. I'm on a bridge, okay, and I'm not going to jump off, but with the traffic in D.C., I feel like it sometimes.
Laura, I'm telling you, you sound great. You sound great. Keep going.
Okay. Number one, I want to say I apologize to my listeners and all my lovely, wonderful stations. You know how much I love you, and I'm not going to let this happen again. Okay, do not play the Lie of the Day music, okay? Do not play the Lie of the Day music, but I'm going to get better at managing my time. So do not play the Lie of the Day music. That's when you're supposed to play it. Okay, so Vandehei says, well, these Freedom Caucus members are going to get blown out. Okay, again, this is what's crazy. These people are supposed to be the experts. Do they think the American people want to play games with Harvey funding and, Irma funding? Depending on the path of this storm, we could have massive devastation in South Florida. And going up, by the way, hitting Category 2, it's to South Carolina. So they think that these experts on MSNBC think that Donald Trump and this administration would be better off arguing with Democrats and Republicans as the country is dealing with 2 natural disasters. Really? See, I think most people listening to this think, okay, you know you're going to raise the debt ceiling anyway. Get that off the table. Get tax reform done and get in the position that you're going to do Obamacare repeal the first part of next year, because that's when you save real money for the country. All right, you're listening to the Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA. A lot more to get to. Your calls. Did Donald Trump betray you yesterday? I'll tell you why he did not when we come back.
Byron, it took me an hour to get into the studio today. Back to school. What a nightmare.
Traffic must have been terrible.
Complete.
Catch your breath, relax.
Oh, God. It's just, okay. This is my assessment. I don't know if Drew shared with you what I think is going on here. Donald Trump is a populist. He's kind of a traditionalist on policy. More conservative, obviously, and he's a populist. He wants results. The Republicans have failed to deliver results. On Obamacare, which torqued him off to no end, they trash him on stuff like Charlottesville. They roll their eyes and wink to the media, clearly have little respect for what Trump knows about policy. And so at the end of 8 months, Donald Trump looks around and says, how do I get something moving? How do I get some momentum here? Who? I know the Democrats, hate me. They hate what I stand for. But these guys are supposed to be my friends. These guys are supposed to be supporting me. I can't get anywhere with them. So, you know something? I'm going to play my own way, and I'm going to cut this deal for a short term. And I get everybody's attention, including the Republicans. And now the Republicans know they don't start giving him results, something he can sign, he'll cut more deals with the Democrats. I mean, that's my analysis of what's going on. Tell me if you think I'm wrong or right.
No, I think you're right, actually. I think it was a clear message from the president to the Republican leadership of exactly what you were saying. Now, I think there's more to it than that, because remember how we were talking about, September is so crowded, they're going to have to do a budget, they're going to have to fund the government, they're going to have to raise the debt ceiling, now they've got these hurricanes to deal with, and they'll never get to tax reform. Well, if you listen to
they will.
Stephen Mnuchin yesterday, who was talking with the reporters, I think on the plane coming back from North Dakota, and he made it clear that Trump wanted to kind of clear the decks to do tax reform. And of course, the ultimate Republican boomerang would be, you give in on all this stuff, and then you don't get tax reform done. But the idea is to give them the space to actually get tax reform done. Now, there's another thing that I thought about when this Trump deal came through, is that a couple of months ago, Stan Greenberg, the veteran Democratic pollster,
who was wrong in 2016. Go ahead.
Goes to Macomb County, Michigan, and he's talking to a focus group, and he wants to find out ways to attack Trump, right? He wants to find the kind of attacks that really work with Trump. And he's talking to Trump supporters, and he brings up all sorts of issues of Trump's temperament, and that just doesn't bother them. I mean, they're not budging at all. But what really irritated them was, and I'm reading from an account in The Atlantic, but the fact that Trump might align with traditional Republicans annoyed them to no end. The groups reacted angrily when shown photos of Paul Ryan
I'm telling you.
McConnell. Okay?
They don't like these people.
So Frank Foer, who wrote this article in The Atlantic, concluded, I think he's right, is that for a lot of these voters, Trump represents an unaligned force. Okay? He's not a Republican. He's not a Democrat. And that's what he was yesterday. He was that unaligned force.
And that's kind of where the people are. The people are fed up with the Republicans. They're fed up with a lot of them are fed up with the Democrats. The activists, like the far left, you go on the far left websites, they're infuriated at Schumer and Pelosi today. They're infuriated. Like, how can you work with this guy? So, yeah, again, anything can happen. But I think there's some method to this madness here. And suddenly we heard Mitch McConnell yesterday. He looked like he was absolutely like, oh, I guess I should have come home back early from that recess. I mean, I guess I was hornswoggled over. He sounded like he didn't know what hit him. But boy, it got his attention on tax reform yesterday.
Yeah. Now, I do think there's one additional thing with the bad relations between Trump and the leadership, and is that Trump has tended, in the first 6 to 8 months of his presidency, has tended to treat members of Congress and even leaders of Congress as if they were his employees, that like he expected them to really get on the ball and get this done. And as opposed to members of another branch who are elected in their own right and do not know, don't owe their office to the president. So I think that's difficult. But I think while he should show them sort of more respect as fellow elected officials, I think what you're saying about him sending a message to them that is, I tried with you guys, we tried Obamacare, we're not really getting anywhere fast, and maybe I'll work with the other team. I think that's clearly what he's doing.
Yeah, look at what happened. Let's go back to March and April. He had them all over to the White House. He took Rand Paul to lunch. I think he played golf with them. Paul Ryan came. He went up to Capitol. I mean, he's not a legislator. He's not a political expert. He's had ham-fisted moves. Clearly, that travel ban was handled poorly, and it hurt the credibility of some of the populists inside. But Trump's a results guy. I've known him for 13 years. I was in the White House a couple of days ago. I spent some time with the president and General Kelly, and I'm not going to tell you what we discussed, but I mean, anyone who says that this guy kind of
question.
Yeah, no can do. I don't talk. But you when I meet with him, I just laugh when I hear these people say, "Oh, he doesn't know what's going on." Oh, really? Yeah, you're in a meeting and you don't have an answer. Oh yeah, no. He moves to the next person really fast. What do you have to say? Is he a policy guy? No, he never will be. But he knows who can bring him results. And if you don't bring him results and show that you have a command of the topic and a command of the policy, he'll cut right through. And that's why people elected him. They're tired of all these old political games. They're tired of this, nothing happens on Capitol Hill deal. And then you campaign on one thing, and then when push comes to shove, seven votes to repeal Obamacare later, everybody has their hands up in the air. Oh, sorry, it was too hard to do this.
And the other thing is, if you were awake during the campaign, you saw this with Trump. I mean, one of the things that Trump did, and the reason he got elected, and the reason his success was so unsettling to so many establishment Republicans, was that he succeeded by kind of blowing up party orthodoxy on a number of issues, trade being one of them, immigration being one of them, foreign entanglements being another. I mean, he was clearly, as a candidate, a very, very different type of Republican. And, you know, when he would say, well, you know, the hedge fund guys are going to have to pay a little more, or we need some infrastructure, or stuff like that, he was clearly signaling that he could work with Democrats at some point. Now, you just look at this tactically. I don't know if this is going to turn out to be a good idea. I mean, part of the Republicans' point is, look, we take a vote to increase the debt ceiling right now, but it's only until December, so we're going to have to do it again. And believe us, Charles Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are going to come back with a new list of demands.
Yeah, no, they're going to squeeze it. No, they're going to squeeze it.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. This is what they do, and Donald Trump knows that. I can tell you that. Everyone's going to be trying to squeeze something out of this. And remember when they did the sequester cuts? Remember the sequester cuts and it was 10% across the board cuts. Republicans were wailing about that because they worried about the Defense Department not getting their, fat sweetheart increases in spending every year. And I was like, well, it's crude, but at least we can cut, start reducing the budget deficit. I was for the sequester cuts.
Yes. And the thing is, I think this also shows the extreme importance of tax reform.
Absolutely.
To the president.
Well, he doesn't get that, it's over. He doesn't get that, it's over, right? I mean, it's over. So he knows that. And the only way you get these Republicans to get it done is to do what he did. I think he had to do something really, and I'm sick of hearing about the disruptor, but disruptive. Otherwise, there's no guarantee. No guarantee.
You have to remember the key promise that he made as a presidential candidate was more jobs at better wages. And that's just over and over and over. I'm going to bring the jobs back. There are going to be more jobs at better wages.
Yeah.
And the best policy tool available to him to do that is to cut taxes. And when you're looking at, remember, they wanted to do it by August. Obviously, that didn't happen with all the other stuff that was going on. And if you talk to strategists, Republicans who are working that out there in the states trying to win re-election for the House in 2018, they feel that they have to deliver on this. Having failed on Obamacare, they can kind of get away with having failed on Obamacare if they reform taxes in a way that leads to more jobs at better wages.
How does Trump become?
Don't do that.
What
do they got?
Nothing. They got nothing, and he knows that. They don't get tax reform. It's over anyway. So
the president himself can point to a bunch of accomplishments, things that he has done through executive power.
Right.
But if you're running for re-election
you got to do
as a
tax
member of the
reform.
House, what do you got?
I am telling you, I think there is nothing wrong with a president wanting to be popular. I said this to Bush in 2007, to President Bush. Look at your numbers.
He was about 25 at that point.
Let's not forget. In January of 2009, when Barack Obama was about to be sworn in, George W. Bush's popularity was at 22%.
There you go.
22, Gallup. 22, look it up. Terrible. He didn't care about it being popular. Well, how did that work out for the country? We turned the White House over to Barack Obama. Now, Donald Trump wants to be more popular. He's a populist. He wants to do things that make people feel good, happy. And look, it's better than wanting to be an unpopular president. Like, get us to be involved in a bunch of wars and get nothing done and just have a bunch of meetings and rail on about how government's no good. No, he wants to do things that people say, they look at him and say, I don't agree with him on everything. And I think he's, maybe he's boorish on some things. But God, he did some stuff. He got some stuff done. I think that's the way he's thinking. It's more pragmatic than it is doctrinaire. And that's
remember when John McCain's campaign tanked, he said, "I'm down to paid staff and blood relations." The only people who supported him.
Yeah, no one
and
did.
That's not a good place if you're a politician. That's not a good place to be.
Byron,
you're absolutely right about it.
Byron, I think that time will tell whether this is another pig in a poke or whether this was actually a genius thread the needle move. where both parties are unpopular. Donald Trump wants to skate right through the independent lane and say, look, these guys haven't given me results. These guys don't like me, but they're willing to do a little bit. And we're going to try to work out something between the two parties, like almost act like a broker between the two parties, which is an odd thing for him to be because he's usually the deal maker, but he's kind of more of the, okay, both. Yeah. I think he's going to make a run against both parties and still call himself the, the disruptor, the America First guy. And to be America First, America has to work. So that's my assessment. Byron, we got to go, but thank you so much for joining us, and excuse me for being on the phone for the
great to be here,
for the beginning of it. All right, we'll take a break. Rick Scott doing the big briefing on Hurricane Irma. This looks like the worst thing that certainly in my lifetime that could be hitting the South Florida, going up the coast to South Carolina. No joke now. This is serious, as everyone is hoarding water and selling water, and gasoline is $5 a gallon in some localities. But this is our listeners in Florida. I know you're on, a lot of you have probably already evacuated, but our prayers, our thoughts are with you. If you are dealing with purchasing these basics in the stores and you want to call in and tell your stories about getting out of town or what it's been like, would love to hear from you. 855-40-LAURA. You sent a clear message to the media and the political elites last fall. You wanted new leadership that focused on the middle class, not the political class, on your lives, not theirs. Well, they didn't get the message. They've been working hard since Election Day to block the voice of the people and help Democrats regain control of Congress. My friends, that cannot happen. You voted to drain the swamp, to take money and power away from Washington, D.C., return it to the hardworking people of this country. Well, we better do that. To moms and dads struggling to make ends meet, young workers trying to save for their future. My friends, small business owners looking to grow and hire employees, we all have to go to the website taxcutsnow.com. Send a letter to your member of Congress to support tax cuts. That's taxcutsnow.com. There's no exceptions, no wiggle room. Get these tax cuts through. Put the pressure on Congress. Go to taxcutsnow.com. That's taxcutsnow.com. The best way to avoid a Nancy Pelosi-led Congress in 2019, go to taxcutsnow.com. Oh, boy, it's back to school. That means running the kids all over town. It's this practice and this instrument band rehearsal, and you're on the move. And whether you have kids or grandkids or you're just trying to, do the stuff that life requires, you're in your car. Let's face it, you're in your car. And if you're like me, I happen to have my cars for a long time. I don't believe in buying a car and getting rid of it after 3 years. That's not what I do. I have a car for 11 years. I have a car that's 9 years old. I have a car from 2001, my Highlander, which I love. But if your car is out of its manufacturer's warranty, it's between 3 and 12 years old, well, guess what? Our friends at CarShield have something great for you. Peace of mind. So if you blow your engine, transmission, sensor, it's computers in the car, you don't have to be out all this dough. You can actually get CarShield to get them paid directly, the mechanic or the dealer, and you don't have to worry about being reimbursed. 24/7 roadside and a rental while yours is in the shop. If you sign up right now at carshield.com, use the code Laura, save 10%. That's good. 10%. Carshield.com, code Laura. You can also call them at 800-CAR-6100. Extended Vehicle Service Protection at carshield.com. They've evacuated, in the process of evacuating South Florida. Mandatory evacuations. Mandatory. You have a choice. You're out. You see the line up 95 North? The only way out is 95 North. The only way to get out of there, unless you flew out. And this is America being hit by 2 major storms within the course of 2 weeks. That's going to test us in a way we haven't been tested before.
And they're running out of gas now.
Running out of gasoline. Got to get gas to those areas. To rescue people, you need gas.
You got to move.
Yeah. You're listening to The Laura Ingraham Show. We're going to be on all aspects of this and a lot more. You're listening to The Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA, tracking Hurricane Irma. Well, we had quite a respite, didn't we, between Katrina and some of the really bad storms, and today, not that we haven't had some flooding and some bad storms the last few years. We had some bad ones in Iowa and of course in Baton Rouge, Tennessee. We've had some bad storms, but
not these massive killer hurricanes. It's been a decade or two, really 12 years.
Yeah, Raymond Arroyo is with us, of course, here on the Laura Ingraham Show, and Raymond endured Hurricane Katrina. and going through that process and evacuating his family, the drywall being ripped out, the black mold, and the rebuild, and the ultimate move, and then the move back.
No, my heart breaks for these people. And I got to tell you, when it's bearing down on you and you're making those preparations,
and those decisions,
it is gut-wrenching. And you think about the memories, you think about, what do I really need? I may never be able to come back to this place again. Like this. It won't be like this when I return. So all of that is going through. So our prayers and your prayers should be with all those people in Florida, in South Carolina, who are in the targets of this horrible
in Bahamas,
storm.
They've never had, in the history of the Bahama Islands, the Bahamian Islands, they evacuated the southern islands, southwestern islands, because a lot of islands in the Bahamas, up to Nassau.
Right.
They think that Nassau won't. Now they're worried that Nassau, because it's going to move a little bit more to the east. That because Nassau, everyone knows Nassau behind, is going to get hit as well. So now those people are kind of stuck in Nassau. They got to get out of there. But it's going to hit there in tomorrow, basically, early tomorrow. So they're all getting ready. But it's still 180-mile-an-hour winds. And there's a lot of questions that we ask ourselves at these times. How would I handle it? What would I take if I knew my kids and my pets would be fine? What's absolutely necessary? Do you ever think about this for any disaster? Let's say it's some type of military incursion. If it's some criminal coming into your home, are you ready? Are you prepared? It's a good kind of check for all of us.
Well,
are you ready? Prepared for a fire in your home, for a flood, for some type of criminal incursion, kidnapping? I mean, do you have procedures in place? Those who are prepared tend to survive. Those who kind of blow it off are the ones who find themselves up against the wall.
If you're on the coast, Gulf Coast or East Coast, seaboard, you've got to be ready.
You have the weather. You have the beautiful weather 11 months out of the year. You get, 10 and a half months.
Hurricane season runs, Laura, from June to November.
Right, but it's usually the bad stuff.
The height is
August and early September.
Yeah.
It's usually August, like mid-August to mid-September. That's usually when it hits. But there's a couple other questions we can ask ourselves. Number one, what is the federal government's role in these disasters? If you choose to live in a target of these storms, and this is target area, Gulf Coast, Florida, if you have coastal property, I mean, it's expensive, beautiful property for the most part. I mean, beautiful. You live a pretty good life. If you're living on the coast, you usually have a pretty good deal, right? So what is the federal government's responsibility? Is the federal government's responsibility to come in every time there's this big storm and help you rebuild? You have the federal flood insurance program, which is, what's the current status of that?
Well, it's right on the brink of disaster. It was created in 1968, and the idea of the National Flood Insurance Program was to underwrite all of those policies. So it subsidizes and underwrites many of those policies, including the one I have. The problem now is it's right at the breaking point. They want to create something a bit more sustainable. But, Laura, on September 30th, it expires. They will basically not be authorized. There won't be enough money. And they're already millions of dollars in arrears. And now with Harvey and now Irma, and let's not forget, right behind Irma is Jose. Now, it looks like Jose will turn out to the Atlantic. Let us pray. And that would be my message to everybody.
Willard Scott here on the Laura Ingraham Show.
Trying to update people.
The island of Barbuda, for anybody who's been on a boat. It's near Antigua.
It's done.
It's destroyed. 90% of the island is uninhabitable. It's destroyed. It's a small island, but it's a beautiful place. I've been on a boat and gone by it, but it's gone basically. Mother Nature will take back the earth someday. I mean, that's how it works. Whether we burn up or whether we flood out or whether we're not here forever.
Well, you were asking people, what do you think about? What are you planning to do? When we were evacuating Katrina and telling you, living in New Orleans now, when I watch these things form in the Gulf,
brings it back.
Well, you think to yourself, look,
what do you
God
really
is ultimately in control of this. You're not. You have no control over steering winds or how you're going to get out of here or where this thing lands or what impact it will have on your home and your community. Yours is to trust, do the right thing for you and your family, and be responsible. It teaches you self-responsibility.
Yeah, it should.
And we saw a lot of roof squatters. I called them
roof
terrible.
Squatters. Roof squatters in New Orleans, waiting for the government to rescue them.
The government won't come, or they're going to come late. You saw what happened in Harvey. It was the Cajun Navy. It was the Cowboy Navy.
Yeah,
it was the local
rednecks
people.
Came in and rescued people. And, we did have, police and first responders.
But it was a lot of canoes and pirogues.
Yeah. Rick Scott said they need 17,000 volunteers. 17,000 people.
But this is America's best face and the heart of America.
It is the heart of America. We're at $25 billion in debt in the federal National Flood Insurance Program. The program runs a $1.5 billion a year deficit. Sounds like Amtrak.
Right.
We should have a reserve fund in this program, so when you have a disaster like this, like Harvey, Katrina, or Sandy, we have resources there to pay for it. The federal flood insurance must be reformed to avoid bankruptcy and push to allow private insurance to run the program as opposed to the federal government, said Sean Duffy, Wisconsin native. Let's set flood insurance up so that the private market can actually come in. Private insurance companies can offer premiums and coverage at better prices than the federal government, he said. We will bail someone out. We'll pay for their house 2, 3, 4, 5 times over. At what point does the government say enough is enough? We're not going to pay for the house 5 times. We might pay for it twice, but not 4 times. We're going to move you out into a different area of the country. Mm-hmm. That's not right in the bullseye of these hurricanes. I don't think the federal government should have to pay to have someone's house rebuilt 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Maybe once, I could say, but not.
Well, if you don't have the means to do it, if you don't have the means
to pay for insurance, why should the federal government step in and make the marketplace better for you? I don't understand any of this. I really don't. By the way, when you go to the National Flood Insurance Program website, here's what it says at the top of the website. Ready for this? It's the FEMA. It's under FEMA, obviously.
Right.
FEMA.gov. You go to the thing. We are redesigning www.floodsmart.gov. First of all, who came up with the name FloodSmart? To make it even more helpful. Because we know there are no software engineers or web designers who are out of work in the United States. This is the federal government can't even have the website right now. Okay, ready? Don't worry, though. This is what they say. So imagine you're going to be flooded out, or you are flooded out. You go to the National Flood Insurance Program website. It says, don't worry, though. Much of the information you might need is right here. If you don't find what you're looking for here, you can check out the left menu or use the site's search tool. Stay tuned for an exciting new floodsmart.gov coming soon. This is what you get when you go to the National Flood Insurance Program website.
So where do you go to file for your insurance claim?
Well, then you go down and it said, I have flood insurance. Do I really need to keep it? I don't have flood insurance. Why do I need it? Who can buy flood insurance? These are all menu items you can drop down and click on. I'm going to click on that one.
Let me tell you the biggest problem. Yeah. Houston has hundreds of thousands of people who did not have flood insurance because it's not a floodplain. They're above sea level. Yeah. They've never had problems in the past. Insurance companies
going out of business. You're going to have insurance companies going to ask.
A lot of people won't write claims.
No. Let me just say, if the American taxpayers are asked to bail out major insurance companies because of the claims they're going to pay out for this, homeowners and other. Now we've done the bailout. Anyone remember AIG? Remember when that went belly up? All the bailout mania. No. We're not bailing out anyone. That's ridiculous. So we got to get this. I mean, we're running out of sandbags. What? Frank in Florida. Frank, you're running out of sandbags down there? What's happening? Frank just said they were running out of sandbags. He had to run to fill his gas tank up in a 2-hour wait, I guess. If you're listening in Florida, we want to hear your response to the governor's response. I think he's been on it. The governor is trying to mobilize every resource, and they're already draining, like Lake Okeechobee, they're draining that. Because if that overflows, that turns that whole surrounding area into a floodplain. So he's working on that already. They're already lowering that level. But It's not going to be as slow moving as the Harvey was, which is good. It is going to move.
Right.
But it's not. Harvey didn't have these winds. So when it hits land, it's going to hit land at 4, Category 4, which is 400 times as bad as a Category 1.
Right.
While retailers are working as quickly as possible to fill grocery shelves with water and other emergency resources, we ask that you prepare. But as you prepare, be considerate of your neighbors. Take what you need, but only what you need.
Fat chance.
We have been in touch with retailers, and more supplies are on the way. If you visited the store yesterday and found a shortage, you should go back today to get your supplies once everything has been replenished.
They're hoarding. Hoarding is going on. They're hoarding.
They panic. They can't get out. And as you said, there's one basic ventricle out of Florida. You've got to go up 95.
Well, how about the fact that only 31,000 people have been evacuated so far from the Florida Keys? I mean, that's just from the Keys. Broward County, Dade County, these are the most populous counties in Florida. How do you get you can't get everybody out of those counties. There's no way you can get everybody out up 95. I mean, you can get on a plane, but all the planes apparently are booked. And by the way, if you were planning on going to the Caribbean over Christmas, you might want to rebook now. That ain't going to happen. Okay, that Barbuda vacation is over. Antigua, all these islands are. I mean, it's heartbreaking. And you know what? The people of those islands are the poorest, among the poorest in the world. Yeah. The natives of those islands. They without tourism, they really have nothing. Tourism is it's the lifeblood of those islands. So there's going to be an enormous amount of suffering. So beyond the people who are hoarding. You don't need to hoard water. You'll get water. I mean, if you have a child, make sure they have formula and you get water for the formula. But you'll be able to, you will be able to get food, and you're not going to be like distended bellies in Africa here. That's where we're going to be. People act like they're going to be in Somalia, not eating for 2 months, for goodness sakes.
No, you need about 3 days worth of. You need 3 days worth of clothes and supplies just to get out of the path, and hopefully you'll be able to come home and things will be intact. But you got to prepare for the worst. This is why I don't want to buy any property on the ocean. It's too heart-wrenching. It's risky. It'd be great to have like a vacation house, but I can barely take care of the house I have. So I can't do any. I mean, or even these timeshares. I mean, forget. I can barely do what I'm doing. It's too complicated.
Just stay at a hotel.
I'm staying home.
Less stressful.
I'm going to an apartment. It's just easier to be an apartment at this point. I'm like fed up with home ownership too. All right, we'll take a break on the Laura Ingraham Show. 855-40-LAURA. Oh, by the way, we got Lisa in Montana. Great Falls, Montana, one of the most beautiful places in the United States. Lisa, when I was in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, I saw, excuse me, I saw the fires. I could see the smoke from the fires in Montana. This was in mid-August, okay? Mid-August, you could see the smoke from the fires. Tell us about what's happening, the story that no one's covering, these wildfires. Go ahead.
We are a beautiful state, but we're burning up. We have over 1 million acres now that has burned or is burning. That's bigger than, like, New Jersey. We have over 50 fires. FEMA just released money, emergency funds, but they left out Montana. We have a historic chalet in Glacier Park that has been there since the early 1900s. It's burned down.
Which one is that?
Oh, it's not Lake McDonald. It's an old stone one. I can't remember the name right offhand.
So all of like Flathead Lake, the place that I go to, Flathead Lake, how's that looking?
Yep. It's full of smoke. We have a big fire up by Seeley Lake.
Oh, yeah, I know.
They've had to evacuate.
The Road to the Sun, all that. Up on Lake McDonald, that area is the most beautiful. That's among the most beautiful forests and mountains in the world, I think. I think Glacier is just one of the most beautiful national parks.
They had to shut down the
Road to the Sun?
Lake McDonald, the lodges, because people, you can't see and you couldn't get in and out. We had, we can't manage our forests.
Well, they should have done controlled burns, correct? The coulda, shoulda, woulda crowd is saying we needed controlled burns in that area, correct?
We could not get on some of this land. The federal government would not let us on the land to fight the fires because they didn't allow motorized vehicles. They got out of hand. They burned ranches. They burned They've taken away.
Who's head of the Forest Service? Look that up. Who's head of the Forest Service? Probably an Obama appointee. I'm just guessing. Thank you for informing us of that, Lisa. I mean, we've been trying to track that. How ironic. We have too much water in Florida coming, and we have no water in Montana. Terrible. I mean, it's just a horrible. My heart is in Montana. I love that state, and it's just federal government's got to really re-examine.
And Laura, you're right. It's Thomas Tidwell. He was appointed in 2009.
Oh, so he's an Obama. We have an Obama person that's head of Forest Service. Okay. We'll take a break on the Laura Ingraham Show. 855. I depend on my car to run errands, to get to work, just like you do. So let me ask you this. If your car broke down today, could you afford the repairs? I don't worry about that anymore because I have extended vehicle service protection from CarShield. Replacing your engine can cost thousands. Even a simple repair to the sensor, not so simple, can cost over $1,000 as well. CarShield's affordable extended vehicle service protection can save you thousands for a covered repair. And they cover practically everything. You can have your favorite mechanic or dealership do the work with CarShield, and then you get the mechanic paid directly. You don't have to worry about getting reimbursed. So get covered by CarShield today, and you'll get the VIP treatment from CarShield's administrators, 24/7 roadside assistance, and a rental while yours is in the shop. So call 800-CAR-6100 and mention the code Laura. Or just visit carshield.com and use the code Laura to save 10%. Pam in Florida, very quickly. Pam is correcting me on my major thoroughfare out of South Florida. I said 95 north. Pammy, go ahead.
Well, once you get a little bit north, you do have I-4, you have 75, you have 19, you have 27. But let me tell you, 75
nightmare
is a parking lot.
It's a nightmare now.
19, 40, yeah. And right now we're doing up in north central Florida, Gainesville. They're doing sandbags, and I think I've been in line for probably at least a half an hour.
Oh, for sandbags? Where are you from? Where are you from, honey?
I'm originally from Colorado, but no, we're in Gainesville, Florida.
Oh, I love Gainesville.
Up in north central Florida.
Gators.
Yeah, University of Florida.
The Gators.
Oh, yeah, and they're going to still play at noon. They're going to play at noon.
Good for them. The Gators can swim, so good for them. I like the fact that they're going to play. Maybe they have to wear flippers when they run down the field. Pam, thanks for that update. We appreciate it. 855-40-LAURA. Constitution Day every September, and I know you value the Constitution and the rights it secures, even if some in Congress don't seem to. Certainly many on the left. But do you really know the basics? That means understanding Article 1, Article 2, Article 3. You don't legislate if you're in the executive branch, Article 1. And if you're an Article 3 judge, federal judge, you're not the president. You don't get to make the calls as the commander-in-chief. So don't try to put on that hat. It's fun when you dig into the Constitution, really understand it. Then you really realize how far afield the government has gone. And it's fun. It's especially fun with my friends at Hillsdale College. Larry Arnn is the president. They have a great online course on the Constitution. It's 15 minutes long. It's backed by popular demand. So many of you now see how important it is to get this, and with all the craziness going on in Washington. And it'll help you understand it. So go to lauraforhillsdale.com. Sign up there. It's all free. It's part of Hillsdale's mission to actually educate the public, make us preserve, defend, and cherish our freedom all the more. And I'm so honored to be part of what they're doing. And once you register there, you can see all the lessons. And again, it's fun. You can just start discussion groups. They have all the tools there for you. And believe me, I need to keep learning. You need to keep learning, no matter what your age. Pursue truth, defend liberty at Hillsdale College. Sign up while you still can at lauraforhillsdale.com. Ending Donald Trump's move in working with Schumer and Pelosi on the debt ceiling. Well, guess what? Lucky you, because I help you do that. Unpack it. Really get it through the populist lens that is critical to understanding Trump. In my new book, Billionaire at the Barricades, The Populist Revolution from Reagan to Trump. I take you through my own world, my own experience, working for President Reagan all the way up to and through the campaign, through this first 7 months, really, because that's the time I had to stop writing. And it's indispensable. You're going to love the book. It's for sale on October 10th. You can pre-order it. I'll tweet it out, Facebook it. You'll see why it's so important when you just see the cover. The cover alone will sell this book, but what's in it is great. So I have to do that little plug for myself, which I never do. Raymond says you never push your own book.
Well, and it's important to talk about. I mean, it's Billionaire at the Barricades because these are barricades that the president might surmount or barricades that
collapse
might
on him.
block him
and
his agenda. And I read it. I have to. Well, can I tell people I read it? I read a little advanced copy, and there were things there I didn't realize about your background, about things your history with the White House. But it is an interesting, both a parallel history of Donald Trump's ascension and the philosophy that drives him that is unpredictable. And whereas the media elite, so many of your peers are wringing their hands, why is he doing this? This doesn't make sense. Oh, he's just crazy. He's out of his mind. There is method to the madness. And in Billionaire at the Barricades, at least I came away with understanding a bit more of what makes him tick and why that unpredictability is part of the game.
Well, it's part of being successful for him in this world of new media and 24/7, 24/7 gridlock. And he wants to bust through it. He wants results. Joining us now, a man who knows something about getting results. Newt Gingrich is the author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, Understanding Trump, and just one of the great Americans out there. I love Newt. I love Citizen Newt, by the way. I love Craig Shirley's book about you, Newt. That's fantastic.
I thought he did a remarkable job, and Craig really spent several years on the project, and I found it kind of exhausting to go back and relive some of the times he's describing it.
Well, the thing about
how many things we did,
right? And look at what you overcame. And there are times are different. Times have changed. You can't draw perfect parallels to anything. However, I will say this: you put together a coalition of people, and at times you did have to work with Democrats to make real progress for the country and to do things that nobody thought was possible. That you won the House. The first time in 50 years, you had the House of Representatives in Republican hands. You had the simple idea of laying out what you wanted to do, and then you started ticking off the agenda items one by one. And lo and behold, people said, well that makes sense.
I learned a lot of that from Reagan. When we passed the Reagan tax cuts in '81, 1/3 of the Democrats voted with us. When we passed welfare reform when I was Speaker in '96, half the Democrats voted with us. So, I came out of a background where if it really wasn't about getting Democrats, it was about getting the American people. And if you had a big enough idea and they liked it enough, they would get Democrats to vote for it. And in that sense, I don't think people should feel bad if President Trump finds a way to get Democrats to vote for things. I think he's got a big tax cut bill coming down the road. Frankly, I think by the time it gets fleshed out, it's going to be so attractive. I think they will get some Democratic votes just because people back home are going to say, why do you want me to pay higher taxes? And it'll become a higher tax, lower tax fight. And as a general rule, the American people end up on the side of lower taxes.
Newt, one of the things that I have said for some time is that if the people working for Trump or the Republicans on Capitol Hill do not deliver results for him, he will find people who will. And he is very pragmatic when it comes to results. He wants results. He wants to see the ball moving down the field. Not always going to be pretty. He'll make mistakes. Everybody stumbles a bit. But he wants to see results. And where was Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan? I mean, if they're so upset, where were they for the past 6 weeks? They were on their congressional break in August, their recess. Meanwhile, Donald Trump took a little bit of time in New Jersey, but he comes back and says, okay, what are we doing? What are we doing here? But where were they? Where was the outrage of the last 6 weeks?
I thought that the quote you had from Ryan was pretty accurate, that Trump, having been to Houston twice and having a real sense of the scale of the disaster, thought this was the right week to be bipartisan and to try to find a way to get it done quickly, and did not want to risk getting bogged down in a partisan fight with the backdrop of both what happened in Texas and Louisiana, and of course the danger of what's coming down the road potentially for Florida. I think he thought, this is a time to be practical, get it done, and frankly, I've been saying all along, they need to get the tax bill done. The tax cuts have to be passed by Thanksgiving. So the 90-day deal doesn't affect the tax bill. People say, it's going to make it harder at the end of the year. If they're still fighting over the tax bill at the end of the year, they have failed.
Well, I think it's over anyway. If they repeat that so our listeners heard it.
Well, I mean, I think that they've got to get the tax cuts done by Thanksgiving, and I don't think they can slide to the end of the year and getting the tax cuts done, because then they won't have any effect on the first and second quarter of next year. And we need real economic growth the first and second quarters of next year. So Republicans are running as the party that brought you higher take-home pay, better jobs, and more economic growth. If they stumble around and they can't get this tax cut done, I think that they have a huge problem at that point.
Don't you think Donald Trump has gotten Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan's attention here? Like you either get this done, this tax reform, or I'll find someone who can get something done. I think it's leverage against the Republicans, frankly.
Well, I think it's a signal that he's going to keep floundering around until he finds a formula that works. But at the same time, I mean, to be honest, Chuck Schumer is not going to put a conservative on the Supreme Court.
No.
You know, there are a lot of places where you can have tactical agreements with the Democrats, but you're not going to get a Trumpian agenda basically by Democrats. I mean, Reagan, 2/3 of the Democrats still voted against Reagan, and half the Democrats voted against us on welfare reform. So, and both of those were very popular. But I think as a tactical matter, he's going to cut deals. I also think taking Heidkamp with him to North Dakota, the Democratic senator, makes a lot of sense because he's maximizing the pressure on her to break with her party and vote for the tax cuts.
I think Newt, I think he's running a play against both sides to keep it in my football because I'm so obsessed with football. I think he's running a really interesting play here, and it might be a spectacular success, or it might not work. But we know what's been happening isn't working. That's for sure. That's not working at all.
Well, I mean, look, first of all, from his perspective, getting this deal done this week, getting it signed this week, is a victory, and it sets a stage for him to be the unifying bipartisan figure, and to also say to the Democrats, don't divide us. So in some ways, for example, it increases the pressure on Schumer to agree to all the various nominees who are currently locked up in the Senate by the Democrats. Because Schumer's got to decide, does he want to continue to appear to be the guy willing to be bipartisan, or does he want to revert back to being a hardline Democrat? And we'll see how that works out over the next 2 or 3 weeks. But I think Trump certainly thought it was worth the risk, and I think part of it was psychological. I think he just thought it would look terrible with everything going on in Texas and Louisiana and potentially in Florida, if Washington degenerated back into a partisan fight. And he thought it was worth a great deal psychologically to prove we could work together.
I'm going to say it right now. I think it was brilliant. Anytime you have these tired old leaders on Capitol Hill look like they just got hit in the face with a 2x4, I'm sorry, I think it's a good thing. I think people have to wake up and see what's happening to this country. So I think it ends up being a brilliant move. This is what Donald Trump tweeted an hour ago, Newt. He said, for all of those DACA, deferred action kids, who are as old as 36, by the way, that are concerned about your status during the 6-month period, you have nothing to worry about. No action. What do you think's going on there, Newt?
Well, I think he faced a really big problem. It's clear, and even people like Senator Feinstein of California agree, that what Obama did to protect the so-called Dreamers was unconstitutional. He didn't have the power to do it. And all of the legal advisors that the president had told Trump that it was unconstitutional. On the other hand, you have about 690,000 people who've been following the rules, signing up, obeying the law, getting jobs, and they came to the U.S. at the average age of 6. For many of them, they have no notion of whatever country they came from. And I think Trump felt that he had to somehow balance compassion and the Constitution and try to get both done, and I think he's done that.
But here's the problem,
Newt. He basically put the burden on Congress.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. But my concern about this is unless he gets enforcement first, not the concurrent amnesty with a promise of enforcement. That's the reason the Gang of Eight bill tanked, because it was like this, this pie in the sky idea that down the road we're going to do this enforcement. Meanwhile, you get instant legal status, and the voters didn't want that. That's why that Gang of Eight went down in flames, and Marco ended up backing away from his own bill. People saw through this. So if he's going to give any type of legal status, he's got to get a lot in return. And I mean a lot, not just a down payment on a wall. He's got to get a lot more than just goodwill from the New York Times. This has got to be a real enforcement first, and then a gradual, legalization.
But he has been steadily creating a very different climate. The number of people trying to get into the U.S. has dropped dramatically. I think like 75 or 77%. We are aggressively rounding up the MS-13 gangs all over the country.
Well, what about chain migration? What about the mother, the father, the uncle, the grandmother, the abuela? What about everybody?
I think that the only bill that could pass, because I agree with you, if you try to turn taking care of the 690,000 dreamers into also setting up legalizing chain migration, then it's hopeless. They'll never pass.
What are their parents, though? The parents are here. What are we going to do to the parents? The DAPA went down in flames, by the way. They tried to push that parent staying thing. Nobody wanted that. So then you're going to have kids who are, 16, and they're going to say, oh, my mother's in Honduras, so you're going to bring my mother in. Then that's another 5 million people. That's all I'm saying. It's the reality of how it's implemented is different from the emotion of the moment. Like, well, you have the valedictorian and Calistoga, who's fantastic. Okay, well, for every valedictorian I show you who's suffering, I'll tell you a valedictorian in another part of the country who's an American citizen who's suffering. So I think it's a dangerous tack here that he's taking. That's my concern.
Well, I guess all I can say is I think overwhelmingly the American people were not inclined to deport people who came here at the age of 6, and that's just a fact. I mean, I got drawn into it in part because there's a priest in the cathedral in Atlanta who came here at 3 years of age.
All right. Okay. I know, I get it. Well, let's talk about the Catholic Church getting $90 million for the Migration Refugee Committee. $90 million they get a year from the federal government. The Catholic Church doesn't want bodies in the pews. It wants money in the coffers. I'm telling you, I think the Catholic Church is in bed with the federal government on this refugee deal, and I don't like it one bit. I like the money flow. You stop that money flow to the bishops, suddenly they'd be singing a different tune on the refugee resettlement note. That's my concern. Dolan, the whole crowd.
Well, I think you and I disagree on that.
Yeah. So, you think Dolan has the best interest of the working class people in the United States? I mean, it's like you see through this, Newt. You cut the money off. Suddenly, maybe the resettlement efforts, not what they think or what they want, but I'm talking about their work in resettlement wouldn't be quite as. And I forgot Callista's at the Vatican, so I might be causing trouble here. I don't want to cause trouble for Gingrich. By the way, I love your Defending America series, your new online series, and it's exclusive online class that Newt hosts, and it begins Thursday, September 14th, and you can subscribe. You can use the promo code FREEDOM. You get 20% off, defendingamericacourse.com. Newt, is there anything you can't do? Do you make a good souffle, too? I mean, you just...
No. Unfortunately, I don't do that. But this started because you'll remember years and years ago, I did a course called Renewing American Civilization, and people kept coming up to me and saying, would you do a modern version of it? And I do think if you look at the left and you look at what's happening at Berkeley and elsewhere, that defending America is a very important idea. And so, if people go to defendingamericancourse.com, I think that they'll see that there's a lot of material there that helps you win the argument. And we've got to beat the left at the most basic levels. I mean, they're just plain wrong.
No,
and I think they're dangerous for our survival.
Well, you're completely right. It's all on the line for this country. And your analysis is so important. We really value you. Love you, Newt. Thank you so much. Citizen Newt is it's a great book. You realize what he went through to put that majority together with a contract with America. And he changed Washington, changed the course of history. Citizen Newt by Craig Shirley and defendingamericacourse.com. We'll take a break. I'm sure every one of my listeners understands the importance of oral care to your overall health. There's no denying the connection. And I'm also sure that many of you have a sensitive mouth or gums. And sometimes you have painful canker sores or sadly, maybe even painful sores from something like chemotherapy, from cancer treatment. And what you may not know is that your mouthwash, especially if it's one of those brands that really burns, it may be making things worse. So you should try non-irritating, alcohol-free Closys Oral Rinse. That's Closys. Closys is like first aid for your mouth. It's as gentle as water, but it helps relieve common but uncomfortable, even painful issues in your mouth. And unlike other mouthwashes, Closis is also pH balanced, which eliminates the burn and the irritation. Try Closis Oral Rinse for sensitive mouth, gums, and canker sores for pain-free oral care. That's Closis, Closys. Learn more about the gentle, effective oral rinse at Closis.com or get Closis today at Walgreens, CVS Health, and Walmart. I'll be on Hannity and Special Report tonight. Follow me on Twitter throughout the day. Billionaire at the Barricades, on sale now.